Alpha Centauri has been one of the shining lights of this flat season to date. We came along to Coronation stables just outside Moon in County Kildare to meet her trainer Jessica Harrington and some of the team behind the filly.
From the moment I saw her, I loved her. I just thought she had a great balance, super walk, and I really liked her. I think probably most people who looked at her thought she'd probably end up being slow, but I just thought she had such good balance and such good movement that I didn't know what I was getting, and she had a very, very good back pedigree. So I put down on a bit of paper that
So you put up your hand and said, I want this.
No, don't put up your hand, you just write down a comment and say, nice remarks about them. And anyway, then she ended up being sent up to me. And the funny thing was when she arrived to me, she got weighed, and the weights came back down, and they said she weighed 530 kilos. And I said, don't be so stupid, she's only a yearling. And so they weighed her 3 times and she was still 530. And I just then realised she was a big lady.
And what would an average filly weigh at that point of her career?
Probably about between 430 and 450.
Wow.
It's like she was heavier than a lot of the colts.
And was that an attractive trait for you, or was it something that you had to just work with?
Well, just look, she's obviously a big heavy filly, and you work away with it. And
did you think then, even then, she could be a 2-year-old?
I had no idea. The only time I discovered that she might be a 2-year-old was in March, when we started just breezing the 2-year-olds. She just was beating everything we put her with. She just cantered up beside them and just dismissed them. And I kept looking at her and thinking, she's so large, what am I seeing? And so I got brave and ran her at the beginning of May in Naas. And it really was the 1st of May, I think, or 2nd of May. And everyone's going to think I'm mad. When she walks into the parade ring, she's probably twice the size of most of these fillies.
Yeah.
And anyway, she ran and she won and she bolted up, and that was great. And I didn't feel such an idiot running my big, large filly, but she really was a 2-year-old.
Debbie, this is Alpha Centauri. I guess you know her as well as anybody.
Yes.
What's she like?
Oh, she's amazing. She's a little bit stubborn, but most of the time very good. She loves what she's doing, which makes it a lot easier, and she's just amazing. Pulls out every day and does her thing and happy out.
Yeah. And do you know when she's in good form or in bad form, or does she have days when she's not in great form?
She doesn't really do that much. Well, the last few weeks now she has been really well in herself. But she's not a one that is going to pull out and she's going to be bucking or anything stupid like that. The most she kind of does is gives an old groan and shakes her head. The last 2 weeks though, that she's in great form. She's absolutely thriving, I think, off these runs and travelling, and her weight has just gone up and up and up. So I think she's in great form, probably the best form she's been in.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, she's just keeps getting improving and going the right way. So.
And do you ride her out every morning?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then does Colin come in to ride her work every now and again?
Colin rides her work. I think he rides her kind of once every 10 days or 2 weeks or that, kind of getting near to her run. He'd give her a breeze then or a piece of work and stuff. So, but I still have to trot her before he rides her, because she won't trot at all and he won't make her trot like.
The season she's had so far, could you have imagined at the start of the year that she would have achieved what she's achieved so far?
I wouldn't think so, Don. I suppose you start the year off with ambitions and your hopes and dreams for what they can achieve. But I suppose to go from the trial into the Guineas and now be here, it's phenomenal, really.
And the trial, actually, was well beaten in a trial, but you weren't that disappointed by that run, were you?
No, not necessarily. Obviously, we had such a wet spring and the grass was so soft we couldn't even work on it. So we had to get her started somewhere, and when she ran her race I was still quite happy considering where she finished, and then she went and done a nice piece of work in Epsom afterwards, which was very good towards the Guineas. So.
And like the Leopardstown race, what was it about that gave you encouragement for the rest of the season?
When she ran in the Guineas, I was just obviously look when she stepped into the Guineas, it was just we were hoping that she'd go and win, obviously, but it was quite an unknown. And then Donnacha got away on the front, and it's hard to get that back. You know, he must have been 6-7 lengths clear of me at the junction, but to put in such a big performance and then to carry on through the season, and it was great. Looking forward to Ascot then, you know.
Yeah. And you first rode her in that race on her racecourse debut at Naas, right? That was the first time you sat on her.
Yes.
What did you think before then?
She's just a big imposing filly, you know. It's hard to believe obviously that they run so early in their career, but she had that physical body strength where she possibly was that bit more mature than the other 2-year-olds that she was running against.
And like, did you think, looking at her before you got on her, that she could be a 2-year-old, she could be as good as she was at 2?
I suppose you're hoping, you know, but she was by master craftsman, obviously out of such a great family. You're looking at the positives, but again, you're running over 6 furlongs when really it's probably in her pedigree to say that she wants a lot further. But on the day, she was excellent.
She just was very mature, even then had this super mind, you know, nothing worried her.
And that's been a lasting characteristic of her throughout her career so far, hasn't it?
Oh, it has, yeah. You know, nothing worries her. She takes everything in her stride. She still weighs 530 kilos, and she's just fantastic.
So she hasn't grown since then, has she? She's probably filled out her frame a wee bit, but she's still the same weight.
I think she did grow a bit. The end of last year, she did grow, and it's probably why she didn't run well in the Moy-Glare, but the ground was soft to heavy that day, and I didn't realise at that time that she actually hated it. And the only other time she's been she ran a bad race was this spring in April when the ground was soft to heavy.
Yeah.
And so, but since then she's been a revelation on good ground.
Just going back to Royal Ascot last year as a 2-year-old, to go down by a neck in the Albany Stakes, was that like great that she ran so well, but disappointed that she didn't get there?
I suppose we were disappointed because you know I was sort of still looking for my first Royal Ascot winner, and I went with 2 great chances last year, her and Brother Bear, in the 2-year-old races, and they both got beat, and so in that way I was disappointed. But she ran a great race that day, and so look, we gave her the time after that, and look what she's turned out to be.
Personally, I think that she possibly could have won if it was a lot harder on her, as I've said before, but I think that she was just obviously growing through that stage of the year, and she might have been a little bit fragile, a little bit on the weak side, and then obviously afterwards she got beat again in the Moy-Glare. So it's just one of those things. Look, you said, she's a big 2-year-old, so she could have been just growing. And
were you worried after she got beaten in the Moy-Glare then that she might not go forward as you would have expected as a 3-year-old?
Not necessarily, because she showed us all the capabilities obviously early on in the year, and again we're just saying obviously look, she's just maturing and she's growing into that big frame.
Yeah. And then so before the Irish Guineas this year, she did a piece of work at Leopardstown on better ground that probably gave you a lot of encouragement.
Yeah, definitely. She worked with 3 nice horses, and she worked incredibly well on nice ground, so it was full steam ahead for the Guineas then. Yeah,
and at the Guineas, that was Jessie's first classic. I know it meant a lot to you to win the first classic that Jessica Harrington won, and you know, ride the filly that provided that for her.
Yeah, look, obviously, Jessie's been an incredible lady through all her years in racing. Obviously the national hunt side of things, but to have a home classic has been very special for her, and for me to ride it was very important.
How did your association with Jessie begin?
Actually, when Franberry decided to move to England, obviously he had more opportunities there for himself that he wanted to take, and Jessie had been speaking to David Watchman, and David Watchman had suggested that I could be the person for the job.
Just as simple as that?
Yeah.
And then it evolved because you were with Ballydoyle at the time, you were with Aidan at Ballydoyle, and it just kind of evolved. Your association with Jessie just grew more strong, is that right?
Yeah, Jessie had obviously a good number of horses there, and obviously quite good breeding for good owners, and she wanted to use me as available as I was outside of Ballydoyle. So there was a lot more rides there, I suppose, on a regular day basis for me, in handicaps and maidens and so forth, so it just evolved from there.
Yeah. And so for you, it was a big deal for it was just his first classic. But for you to win an Irish Guineas, was that a big deal for you as well?
Oh yeah, look, to win any classic, even to ride in the Group 1s is massive for any jockey. And look, to have the opportunity to ride such a great filly, I'm very grateful for that.
Colm has been a big part of her, hasn't he? Like he obviously he's ridden her in all her races, but he didn't ride her for the first time until she made her racecourse debut at Naas.
No, because then he was still working for Aidan, and he wasn't coming up and riding work for me. He might have sat her on in March, but maybe I didn't let him sit on her, because he'd have probably told me to put her away till the autumn.
Yeah, but like he's obviously, in terms of riding her in the races and educating her, like he's a big part of the Alpha Centauri team, isn't he?
Fantastic part, you know. And he has such faith in her. He just doesn't mind which way he rides her. You know, he says you can hold her up, you can make the running, you can wind her up, you can do anything you want with that. She'll go in the race wherever you want her to go.
Going to the Curragh for the Irish Guineas, you must have thought we have a bit of a chance here.
I couldn't believe that, 2 days before she was like 33 to 1. I thought, this is, crazy. But
she was a bit of a forgotten horse, wasn't she? Because I guess the Moidler, and then down the field in the Guineas trial.
Yeah, and everyone forgot about her.
Yeah.
But that day, I knew she was well, Colin knew she was well. And then it was a funny race, because with Aidan's horse going off so far in front, it sort of made it, she had to do all the hard work. She had to go, she was the first one to go and chase him down. And she really, for the race she had there, she won it really quite comfortably in the end.
And what was that like? Because that was your first classic.
Fantastic. A great buzz.
Can you put it into context of any of your big wins,
I suppose,
jumps wins even?
Winning a classic and winning a Gold Cup, I'd say now those are two really, really, really amazing things to do.
And like, was it a big thing that it was on home soil, that your first classic was an Irish classic?
Yeah, I think that made a difference, It was at home and it was fantastic.
Have you looked after her since she's got here?
No, I've only been looking after her since about January.
Right.
I was fortunate enough to get her.
How did that happen?
I think it was literally just by chance. She was rode off for a few days, and then the lad that was riding her off wasn't in one day, and I got her. And I think
you didn't let go over that.
Yeah. I think it just literally happened by chance. I was just probably in the right place, the right time, or something was after changing or something. But I was just lucky to get her.
And how is it determined who gets what horse, or is it just the luck of the draw in the end?
Kate mostly. Whatever. I think it's just kind of put people's strengths with.
Yeah.
You see, I've done a bit of eventing and stuff, so I kind of get her on the bridle and make her trot and make her move, which is kind of what she needs, because she'd pull out otherwise, and she'd pretend like she's crippled, and lads would kind of let her do that. But I know she can move and stuff now, so she's well able to flick her toes, and she needs to use herself properly.
I guess it's important for the person who looks after the horse to get to know them well, and to know their little traits and little idiosyncrasies. Exactly,
and this one would she would see how far she could get with you in terms of what she has to do and what she doesn't have to do.
Yeah.
Like when you go into the stable as well, she'd kind of turn her arse to you and stuff, but once you kind of keep firm with her, she kind of goes, okay, let's do it then.
And is that the key to her, to be firm with her?
I think so. That's the way I've been doing it with her, and we get on well now, so it's not a bother on her.
After the Irish Guineas, I guess the Coronation Stakes was the obvious race for her at Royal Ascot.
Yeah.
So you're going back to Ascot again with the filly with a big chance, and you had Torsador obviously in the Gold Cup as well.
Yeah, I went there with horses that seemed to have good chances, and and it looked on paper a very, very strong Coronation Stakes. You had 3 Guineas winners in it, and as well as runner-ups, and on paper it looked very strong, and she was absolutely amazing. She was electrifying that day.
Alpha Centauri has gone for home now. She's kicked 3 lengths clear, heading down towards the last furlong, and she's stretching further away from Threading and Voracious. Alpha Centauri pounding clear on the run to the line. She's 5, 6, 7 lengths ahead. A star in the making. Alpha Centauri wins the Coronation Stakes.
We went to Ascot then full of confidence, but obviously you're taking on the best fillies, obviously of their age at that time of year. And it's the biggest stage in Ascot, so you're going there with great possibilities, and hoping that it'll work out, but it's a big ask.
So going into a race like that, like, is there pressure on you? Do you feel like do you feel there's pressure on you?
Not necessarily, because I have to obviously think of my filly's capabilities and work to her strengths and do the best thing for her, and that's how I approach the race.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you were drawn wide in the Coronation Stakes, weren't you?
Yeah, it was drawn, I think, towards the outside with James Doyle and Frankie Dettori. So I had two good men around me to follow, and thankfully they were quite forward in the race, so I was able to get a little bit of cover.
And did you want to be forward as well?
I was happy to be.
Right.
Obviously, it just depended on the pace of the race. She's very uncomplicated, and I just wanted to give her the clearest passage into the straight, because she's quite a long striding filly, and I didn't want to block her. So once I had a lead from the guys into the straight, she was pretty uncomplicated then.
It was very uncomplicated as it turned out. Like, the amount that she found in the home straight that day, like that surprised you, given how fast you'd gone early on. I think you went fast, didn't you? Like, the time was obviously very fast. Yeah, we went very quick, but from the middle of the race, if you watch it, she got very comfortable, and I suppose that's when she really started to find her rhythm, And she wanted to actually get going a lot sooner, but I just held on to her. And then once I eased out, going down past the 2, I just let her go, and she just showed great acceleration. And did you think that she would do that? Yeah, it's something that she's so powerful, Yeah. She's not anything flashy at home, but that it's always there, but we never go asking for it. But obviously to put up such a massive performance, it's something that you never really expect, When
Colm sent her out of business 2 furlongs out, I thought, oh my God, you've gone too soon. But the further she went away from him. And like, that must have been a phenomenal feeling, watching her come away and being as impressive as she was. Yeah, that was amazing, because when he got to the line, he was slowing her down again. Yeah, and she broke the track record. She did, and the second broke the track record, I think. Yeah. So it was a phenomenal run, really was. And your first Royal Ascot winner. Yeah. Your last runner of the week, wasn't it? It was, yeah, it was my last chance saloon. So that, again, it must have been brilliant. And it was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And like, was that a marquee performance from her? Do you think that was, like, the clock says it, and I'm not referring to the clock all the time, but it says it was, fantastic performance. Like, did you feel that was top notch? Like, you've ridden top class horses in the past and top class races, but was that up there with the best races you've ridden in? Oh yeah, without doubt. Obviously, all the ratings were there with the other fillies that were competing, and you'd obviously you'd Richard Hannon's filly as well that had done so well before, obviously in the English Guineas. So she's obviously one of the best I've ever ridden, and she put up quite a good performance. The travelling over to Britain, I mean, I know she did it last year. That's not difficult for her, is it? No, she seems to take it. And for Ascot, actually, I stabled all my horses with Nicky Henderson, because he has a few empty boxes there in the summer, which is great. And it's very handy, because they can go out on his gallops in the morning. They're an hour and a bit now from Ascot, so it's really rather like being at home. So they're very relaxed down there, and they're away from the racecourse yard. So that was filly, 3-year-old fillies. Her next step was taking on the older fillies in the Falmouth Stakes at Newmarket. Was that always going to be our next race? Yeah, provided she came out. They'd actually, the Falmouth Stakes used to be a week earlier, and for some reason this year, it has now become, there's a nice gap between that and Ascot, and that, seemed to be the right gap for her, and she takes her racing well, and so away we go with her to there. Yeah, and that was no bother. No bother. Colm just said, there's no one to make the running here. I'll just jump her out and make the running, and let her do her own thing. Yeah. And probably in a way she was probably more impressed with that, because she was only just dossing the whole way up to the line. Yeah, easy.
Alpha Centauri, the favourite, will take the Falmouth Stakes. Alpha Centauri has won it from Out in Order, who was home in second. Back in third, Clement. I thought that she had the beating of her own generation in the race, and obviously she was getting the weight allowance from the older fillies. And we hadn't worked over hard before that, because it was only like 2.5 weeks from her race date up till then. So she'd only done one piece of work. So I just wanted to keep it as simple as possible, and looking at the race, I thought there wasn't a whole lot of pace in it, so I just wanted to do my own thing really with her. So you didn't mind leading from flagfall? No, and I had the confidence of doing that on her, because I'd done it on her 2-year-old career. And usually when you're on the best horse, you try to keep it as simple as possible. Yeah. Like, is that a major factor for a filly like, or for any racehorse, to know that if needs be you can go on and make your own running? Yeah, I suppose, look, you have to play to your own horse's strengths, and
think the beauty of her is that there's very rarely you can actually do that on a horse, and I think that just shows how good she is.
Yeah. So then the next step was taking on the colts in the Prix Jacques Le Marois. The ground was probably a wee bit, not very soft, but a wee bit softer that day than it had been at Newmarket or at Ascot, is that right?
Yeah, a little bit slower, but I walked the track previous, obviously, that morning, and I didn't think it was that bad, to be honest. I was happy where I was drawn, and I had obviously With You next to me, so she was probably the target that I wanted, and she was going to make the running because she ran such a good race over 10 furlongs previous to that. So it worked out as straightforward as it could be, to be honest.
Yeah. And again, you didn't mind where you could let her do her own thing, let her do whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
You wanted her to do.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of the French style of racing is that they like to go slow and like to sprint, but I know that she relaxes so well she wasn't going to get keen with me, and I know she's got a good turn of foot, so as I said, I just want to play to her strengths.
Yeah. Does a straight mile suit her well? Because the Falmouth was a straight mile, Jacques Le Marois was a straight mile. I know Ascot was around the bend, but does that suit her well? Because she's a big, long striding filly.
Yeah, I suppose it does play to her strengths, Don, and that's that. Look, you're not blocking her in any sense if you don't want to, but she turning tracks, I don't think I have a problem to read her.
Yeah.
It's funny because they kept saying the ground was soft there, but it wasn't. It was good ground. It wasn't good to firm ground, which she'd been running on, but it was good ground, and it seemed to be lovely ground. And again, Colin said, look, that'll go forward, we'll sit in behind. And it's funny, in France they all sort of go in Indian file, but he just said when he got to I think it's 600, he just said, look, we've gone slow, I think I better head for home. And she did it very easily again.
I think he said afterwards that she's got such a stride that he wanted to utilise her long stride.
Yeah, she has a long stride, and there's no point, he says she probably doesn't have instant speed, but she builds up, and that's why he pulled her out and got a clear run on her, because if you look at all our races, she's always had a clear run. She wouldn't, if she got boxed in, maybe she mightn't have the instant acceleration, but she's got a great big long stride, and she just keeps going.
And look at this, Alpha Centauri, the queen of the mile. Alpha Centauri won it easily.
You've been over to France and over to Ascot with her.
Yeah.
How was that?
Oh, amazing. It's something else. Like, she has so many fans and people looking at her and want to take pictures of her, and just to see her really, they know straight away when she steps foot into the place, because she's just so different, I suppose, the colour and everything, and they all just ask, is that Alpha? And it's just amazing to be dealing with her like all the time, and everything.
Be a part of it.
Be a part of it all.
What's optimal for her? What are her optimal conditions then?
Oh, I don't know, distance-wise, she's so relaxed. Maybe she'll get and the way she's bred, she'll probably get a mile and a quarter. But look, she's so good at a mile, why change something that ain't broken?
Yeah, and she seems to be okay around the bend as well, even though it's a big, long striding filly. A straight mile you'd think might suit her very well, but at Ascot she was as good as ever.
She didn't mind a bit going around the bend.
Yeah. Like you say, she's up there with the best you've ridden. Like, you've ridden, obviously, the top class Ballydoyle horses in work. You've ridden big winners, Jean Vermeer, Treasure Beach, Astronomer Royale in big races. How does she, as a horse, compare with those types of horses, and how does what she has achieved compare with what you achieved on them?
Obviously, the breeding is there, and 9 times out of 10 it'll come true. She's such a big, powerful, and imposing filly, like it's similar to what they are, and I don't know if you can really compare her, like as an individual she's very different, and then in given years her horses are very different, but I can't really compare her to anything, to be honest.
But are you getting as big a kick out of her as you've got out of any racehorse in the past?
Yeah, definitely, because I've got the responsibility of riding her, and that's what I want, and that's very special to me.
Yeah. So next up, all going well, is the Matron Stakes on Irish Champions Weekend. How do you see that race going? How do you see her? How's her preparation going for that?
Her preparation's going well. She's come out of the Prix Jacques Le Marois in great form. I sat in her last week, and she's moving great, and she's in good health and good spirits with herself. The Matron, I think, the track and obviously the competition is going to be there. Every Group 1, it's never hard to win. But I'm really looking forward to the race.
And obviously she's going to be around the bend there. Leopardstown, it's a short enough home straight, but there's a good stiff finish that should probably suit her well, should it?
Yeah, definitely. And look, obviously we'll see what the declarations about what's going to run in it.
Yeah.
But regards track, and hopefully the ground is nice for everybody, I think it'll be a good race.
How important is that to her? Because her disappointing runs have been on easy ground. Like, does she really need fast ground?
I don't think that she needs very firm ground. She'll handle a little cut in it. She just doesn't want extremes of ground, as you would say. I think last year I put a lot of it down to a little bit of weakness on her own side, but she's quite adaptable, which a lot of the good horses are.
As long as the ground's good,
Yeah.
it'll be fine.
So she doesn't need rattling fast ground, does she?
No, good ground is fine. It's just not heavy. You know, heavy to soft ground. And maybe as she, I think the only reason she doesn't like it, she's so big, and I think she just sinks into it more than anything else. And as she gets older, no doubt she'll be able to cope with it better.
Looking forward to the rest of the season now. I mean, obviously Leopardstown, next big date for her.
Yes, Leopardstown is where we're going to first. Just keeping her right, keeping her routine. Just doing what we have been doing all the time. We're not changing anything now at this stage.
Is that key to keep a routine with horses in general?
Horse in general,
Yeah.
I think, just keep doing the same thing with him, and just because she is a superstar, don't really ride her as that. She has to be still rode like, I suppose, every other horse. I just have to try not fall off her, that's all. Because I do not want to see her galloping around the out.
Do you think she knows she's a superstar?
I think so, yes. She surely does. But she's still, she's just so good. Just walks around and does her thing and no messing.
And then, please God, maybe off to America at the end of the season. That'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant, but we'll get over Leopardstown first and see how we go. And then take it from there.
The Niarchos family have a very good record in the Breeders' Cup Mile, and that's a race that I know it's down the road a little bit, but it has been on her long-term agenda for a while if she's proven to be good enough. How do you feel about that?
Well, listen, I've just said all summer we'll take one race at a time. Let's get over the next race, and then we'll make a plan for the next one. Yes, they would love to. She's won one of the win and you're in races, so she doesn't have to get nominated. Or she's ticking all the boxes so far, and we'll just wait and see how she is. We've got the next race is the matron, and that we'll concentrate on that race first, and then make a plan after that.
What other horses, big horses that we know, have you looked after here?
Not very many.
She's head and shoulders above most
she's
horses.
She's the chosen one, yes.
Looking even further ahead, the news has come out recently that she stays in training next year, all going well.
Yeah, all being well, probably she's sound and well, she will stay in training.
Do you think she could be even better at 4 than she is at 3?
I have no idea, she's pretty good at 3, so I'm not going to do any speculation on that.